right, I hope the session has started. Right, I can see myself. I hope you all can also see me. A very good evening, all of you. How are you all? Good evening, Ronak. All right, let's see who else has joined. Hi, Smriti. Hello. Hello, Pratik. Hi, Alankrita. Hi, Aditya. Good evening. Good evening, Ajay. Avantik. Hello, hello. How are you all? How are you doing? Okay. Hello, Mehek. Hi, Astha. Hi, Nilesh. Good evening. Good evening, Pushkar. So, how is the prep going? So, we are, going to do our 30th editorial analysis session today. Good. I am well. I am well. Thank you for asking. Hi, Sunil. Hi, Namu. Okay. So, let's begin with today's session. And I think you'll really feel a bit angry on reading what is going to come next on your screens, but let's read it. Okay, let's gain some historical perspective. All right, so this is a quote, and I'm quoting the sources, an article called The Ugly Britain. Okay, it was written by Shashi Tharoor in the Time magazine, and he has written about someone. Now I want you to guess who this person is, in case you haven't already seen some of my messages. Yes, so tell me, who is this person? I hate Indians, he told the Secretary of State for India, Leopold Emery. They are a beastly people with a beastly religion. The famine was their own fault, he declared at a war cabinet meeting, for breeding like rabbits. This is absolutely correct. This is a quote. Here these words were said by Winston Churchill. Who was Winston Churchill? Tell me, who was he? Why are we talking about him? How is he related to India? So he was the PM of Britain from 1941 to 1945. So we are talking about the Second World War period, right? And also he served as the PM twice. So he again served from 1951 to 1955. Yes, former PM of the UK. How can we know that? Who has written this? Who has said this? I'm just asking you to guess. Okay, it's okay if you don't know. And the source of this particular piece, it's an excerpt from an article by Shashi Tharoor called The Ugly Britain. Okay, all right, let's see another one. As is his hatred for Mahatma Gandhi, a figure he repeatedly mocked, calling him, among other things, a malignant, subversive fanatic and a seditious Middle Temple lawyer, now posing as a fakir of a type well known in the East, striding half naked up the steps of the Viceregal Palace. So, a British person is called a Briton, right? Okay, so this one comes from a piece in the Atlantic. This was written by the historian Ramchandra Guha, who has also written India After Gandhi. So the piece was titled Churchill, the greatest Briton, hated Gandhi, the greatest Indian. Okay, so Churchill is hailed as the greatest Briton, of course, by the people of Britain, right? But these were his views about India and about Mahatma Gandhi. He called Gandhi a malignant, subversive fanatic. What would that mean? Malignant. What does this word mean? Evil. Okay. Subversive. Of course, he would call Gandhi subversive because Gandhi was fighting for India's independence, so he wanted to subvert or to overthrow the British. So yes, he was subversive uh, in the British sense of the word, right? Fanatic. Who is a fanatic? Mal means bad. Excellent, Chundari. So Praneeth is the name. All right. So here, fanatic means somebody who is obsessed with a political cause, an extremist, right? So look at the language that is being used for Gandhi: a malignant, evil, subversive, fanatic, and a seditious. So why is he being called seditious? What is sedition? I'm sure you've encountered this word in the newspapers, sedition. So, one fallout of his quote is that we are learning vocabulary from it. So, sedition is an act of saying something or doing something against an established authority, especially the government. That is sedition. Okay, so in India, for instance, as per law, a person can be booked for sedition, they can be arrested for sedition. Okay, no, it's not related to sadism. No. Sadism is pleasure in inflicting pain on others, so that's entirely different. Yes, it is a legal term, absolutely. A seditious Middle Temple lawyer. Middle Temple is basically London's, it's a place where London's Bar Association, their association of lawyers is located. So Gandhi studied law from London, right? So a seditious Middle Temple lawyer, now posing as a fakir. So he's, trying to say that, oh, he studied law from London and he's now posing as a fakir of a type well known in the East, striding half naked. So, taking steps half naked of the vice regal palace. It is actually it was the residence of the viceroy at that time. It's located in Shimla. Okay, now it is a building dedicated to an institute, the so-called old vice-regal palace. Okay, so it was the viceroy's palace at the time. Kako means ugly. Saurabh, kako means, and it comes from the Greek kakos, which means ugly. Okay, and calligraphy has kalos. The Greek root kalos means beautiful. Mal, on the other hand, means bad, and ben means good. Okay, so there's a difference: ugly, beautiful, bad, good. Oh, you've been there. Wow. All right. So Churchill has a lot of statues in the UK. Especially there is this big statue right in front of the Westminster Palace, right? And so my spouse and I were searching for this statue, right? We just wanted to visit, and we asked somebody, and he says, "Oh, Churchill, he was a fine statesman." So my spouse gave a very sarcastic expression when this guy said, "Oh, he was a fine statesman." But for them, he was a fine statesman. Yes. So history differs according to which country you are studying it in. Yes. So the source of today's article is Independent, right? So these are for your further reading, right? These pieces. I have taken a piece from this UK magazine named Independent. The author is Chandak Sen Gupta. Okay, so he has reviewed a book. The genre is history, of course, and it is 472 words, right? So let's study this, let's read this. If anything is not clear, I'll explain. We'll discuss the context of this after reading the whole thing, and then we'll attempt 4 questions, right? Let's go. Start. Once you're done, you have to let me know. Start. Done. Others? Okay. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Done this one. Okay. Let's go to the next slide then. Done this one. That's good. Okay. So now I'm asking you, do you want to attempt the questions first and then we discuss anything that you probably haven't understood? So we can do that. Or if you want to discuss the article first, the excerpt first, then go to the questions. Okay, the first one, yes, the first option. All right, let's attempt the questions first. All right, so here's your first question. Tell me, what should the answer be? You can always ask me that you want to go back to the relevant slide because this is a direct question stated in a particular place in the passage. Okay, I've got some responses. Hi Richa. What about others? These are very few responses. No negative marking here, right? You can respond. Yes, that is what I was looking for. What led to the hoarding of rice in India at that time? Read the relevant part? Okay, so I'm going back now. Right. So see the difference that going back makes. Always seek proof in the passage. Don't be overconfident that, oh, I have just read it. A lot of you, what you did was that you just saw option number A and you didn't even read the other options. No, this is not what we have to do. The answer is D, not A. Okay. I'll give you the logic and everything, but let's attempt all the questions first. All right. Let's go to question 2. Based on the passage, one could best characterize Churchill as. Okay. All right. So I've got B, D, C, B. Okay. Getting a lot of B's. All right. So the answer is B, Bangalore. Not C, not D. Okay. Look at something that you missed in D. The lives of his people. Indian people were not his people. Okay. But again, I'll explain it in detail later on. Let's attempt all the questions first. Question number 3. Okay, let's go back to the relevant slide. Done? All right. Okay. So I've got 3 B's, all right, and 4 C's. Now I think 4 B's. All right, C's have reduced. Okay, so I think you are confused primarily between B and C, and one of you has also said A. The answer is B, Bangalore, right? We'll see why. Okay. Question 4. All right. Others? What do you say? What do you say? Okay. Very few responses. Come on, no negative marking. Don't hesitate, it's okay. All right. So Fluke says C. But fluke, if it's a fluke, it's correct. C is the answer here. Good. B, C, B, B. Okay. Just saying something a lot more times, or if more number of people say something, that does not make it more true. Yes? That's logic 101. All right. So these were our questions. Now, do you want to discuss the questions first, or do you want to go for a discussion of the excerpt first? Whatever you say. So today I'm just taking your opinions. Okay, Natasha says RC. Astha says RC. Questions, passage. First passage. Okay, I'm getting more of the passage. Okay, so let's discuss this. So I think we already read this quote, right, before we even began this article, right? So this is a popular quote of Churchill. A beastly people with a beastly religion who bred like rabbits. Very insulting. Now, Madhushri Mukherjee has written a book called Churchill's Secret War. I even have this book somewhere in my Almira, right? And she establishes how Churchill and his associates could have easily stopped the Bengal famine of 1943. This article then later even describes the ease. They just had to announce that, shipping was coming, some rice was coming, Britain was sending some rice. That's it. That would have made hoarding unprofitable. With a few shipments of food grains, but refused in spite of repeated appeals from 2 successive viceroys, Churchill's own Secretary of State for India, and even the President of the United States. Do you know approximately how many people died in the Bengal famine? Yes, any guesses? How many people died in the Bengal famine? Tell me. Just guess. Again, I'm not deducting marks here. Okay. 900,000, 10 lakh. Okay. Lakhs of people. So these are the kind of answers that I like. So when you say lakhs of people, you don't have to really mention 2 to 3 million. That's the estimate. 2 to 3 million. 20 lakh to 30 lakh people, they died in the Bengal famine. Now, just put this in perspective that we are talking about 1943, okay, when the population of India was also not what it is today, right? So, a lot of people. Now, famines never unknown in India, and I am not comparing, but to put this in even more perspective, we keep on hearing about mass genocide in Gaza, right? So somewhere around 60,000 people have died in Gaza. Of course, it's a very narrow strip. It's a very short, very small area. But still, just to put things in perspective, I'm telling you this, 20 lakh to 30 lakh people. Famines, never unknown in India, became increasingly deadly, lethal during the Raj because of the export of food grains and the replacement of food crops with indigo or jute. So, right from the beginning, Who is orchestrating these famines? Who is bringing them about? If Indian food grains will be exported to various other countries, especially Britain, and if you want Indians to grow indigo or jute in place of them, then you are causing those famines, right? You can't say that it was actually India's fault, the famine is India's fault. The Second World War made things worse, especially after Japanese forces occupied Burma in 1942. Yes. Japan in the World War was an Axis power, right? I invite you to read about World War II, who were Axis powers, who were the Allied powers, right? So Japan, under its empire, right? It was an imperial Japan at that time, and it was an Axis power. It was on the side of which countries? Who was primarily the most Axis power out there? Germany, Italy, right? So just to give you more context, okay? So Japanese forces occupied Burma. Japan just wanted to occupy Southeast Asia entirely, right? So they occupied Burma in 1942, cutting off Indian rice imports. So India imported rice from Burma at that time. India was not self-sufficient in the production of rice. In fact, even if it was self-sufficient, it wasn't producing food grains anymore. Then a destructive cyclone hit the Bengal coast just when the crucial winter crop was maturing. Okay, so imagine that would worsen the situation. Destructive cyclone hitting Bengal. Okay, and the surviving rice, whatever rice Bengal had grown, that was also damaged by disease. So you can't import, your own production has been damaged. Officials of the British Raj, fearing a Japanese invasion. Now they were fearing that Japan would invade Bengal as well, right? So they were fearing a Japanese invasion. They confiscated everything that might help the invading force. Imagine, these three factors: no imports, own production damaged, and whatever is already existing in the market, you've confiscated that. Yes, boats, carts, motor vehicles, elephants, and crucially, all the rice available. And then this person says that the famine is India's own fault. The Japanese never came back, they never came, but a panicking public. Now here's the answer to your question number 1. A panicking public and many crafty businessmen, many cunning businessmen immediately began to hoard rice. And the staple food, it is the staple food of Bengal, right? And the staple food of the people quickly disappeared from the marketplace. So what led to this hoarding of rice? It was not initially the fear of a Japanese invasion, right? Because of that, rice was confiscated. Because of a fear of Japanese invasion, the existing rice was confiscated. Okay, the hoarding usually happens when panic buying starts in the market, right? There is an anticipation of price rise. So panic buying by public due to the confiscation of the available rice in Bengal by Raj officials, that then precipitated the hoarding. Okay, now we always have to mark the immediate cause, isn't it? When let's say there is a chain of causes that is leading to something, so for the ultimate outcome, when I ask you the particular cause, it's the immediate preceding cause usually, which is the most relevant, that brings it about. So that is why simply the fear of Japanese invasion would not have led to the hoarding had the existing rice not been confiscated, isn't it? So that is why A is not the answer. अगर वो अवेलेबल राइस मार्केट का नहीं कॉन्फिस्केट करते तो ये फियर से भी होर्डिंग नहीं होता. ठीक है? So not this, not the destructive cyclone, not the cutting of rice imports. It was finally this thing that brought it about. Okay. Now, so hoarding happened. Government stocks were released, but only to feed the people of Calcutta, and the urban population never suffered too greatly. So the urban population of Bengal didn't suffer too greatly because government stocks were released for them. The rural masses, however, were left to the wolves. What does it mean to leave someone to the wolves? Hoarding, yes, to collect something in huge quantities. It's a negative term, hoarding. Yes, noob gamer, देखा मैंने कल. A good score, I would say. Left to the wolves, yes. So basically, when you leave someone to the wolves, you leave them in a dangerous situation to cope with it on their own, right? This was when Churchill could have made a difference by sending wheat or rice to Bengal. Yes, he could have made a difference. And not even enormous quantities, बहुत ज़्यादा भेजने की ज़रूरत भी नहीं थी. The point was to make hoarding unprofitable. That was the entire point. Just make hoarding unprofitable. Yes, so that rice is available in Bengal. And as the Viceroy, Lord Linlithgow pointed out, the mere knowledge of impending imports, बस अगर ये knowledge भी आ जाए ना लोगों में, ये पता भी चल जाए उन्हें कि imports आने वाले हैं राइस के, that would have done so. That would have made hoarding unprofitable by lowering the price of rice. Okay. Does this make sense, this bit? It's important for answering a question. Okay. So we'll come back to it when we see our further application question. Churchill, impending is something that is about to happen. Something about to happen. Okay. Ashish, so you're saying this is not clear. So अगर आपको पता है, देखो अभी क्या है, होर्डिंग हो गई राइस की, ठीक है, राइस हैज़ बीन होर्डेड. So that means in the market there is a shortage of rice. Rice is perhaps not available in the market. What will that do to the price of rice? Price will, जब shortage होती है किसी चीज़ की, the price will go up. Now let's say people come to know that rice supply is going to increase, because अगर वो imports आ जाएंगे, लोगों को ये पता चल गया कि राइस की ना सप्लाई इंक्रीज होने वाली है, तो अब लोग क्या करेंगे, वेट करेंगे. अब वो इतने ज़्यादा प्राइस पर नहीं खरीदेंगे, कंज्यूमर विल वेट, राइट. एंड व्हेन द कंज्यूमर रिफ्यूजेस टू बाय एट सच अ हाई प्राइस, द प्राइस विल ऑटोमेटिकली कम डाउन. डू यू सी? So this is the economic logic that is being talked about in the question. Churchill and his war cabinet, however, decided to reserve available shipping to take food to Italy in case it fell to the Allies. So the World War II was happening at this time, right? And Italy was ruled by whom at this time? कौन था इटली का ruler? Benito Mussolini. Yes, the fascist leader Benito Mussolini. ये सब एक ही थैली के चट्टे बट्टे थे, right? Birds of a feather. Mussolini and Hitler. In fact, Hitler had borrowed a lot of Nazi elements from Mussolini. Okay, so Mussolini was a pioneer, and he actually brought about, he had this philosophy called fascism. Now Hitler, when he came to power, he saw, and even the Nazi salute, it is said, has been borrowed from Mussolini's regime. So, you can watch a documentary. There's this documentary series called The Dictator on Netflix that actually mentions these things, right? So you can watch. It talks about both Hitler and Mussolini. Yes. So, now, अब इटली एक्सिस पावर्स की साइड से फाइट कर रहा था, है ना, और ब्रिटेन allies में था. Who were the allies? Britain and who else? The allied powers. Ronak, I will do that. Yeah. So Britain was there. France, yes, before it was occupied, but then also, yeah, after occupation also it continued. Russia, absolutely. Russia and US fought together in the Second World War as allies. Russia, US, Britain and China also joined them. Absolutely. Okay. Soviet Union, yes, back then it was called Soviet Union. So these were the big four. They were referred to as the big four allies. So now Italy was about to be defeated, and Churchill said that, once it is defeated, we will have to provide food to the population in order to, stabilize. As part of the post-war stabilization efforts, we'll have to provide food grains to them. So let's just reserve it to provide it to Italy. Okay, so that is why he refused to send it to India, his colony, whereas Italy is still now an enemy, right? He even refused help from Subhash Chandra Bose, then fighting with Axis forces. Why was Subhash Chandra Bose fighting with Axis forces? Was he supportive of Nazism, fascism? Was he supportive of an imperial Japan? Of any sort of empire? So, Subhash Chandra Bose had this philosophy that my enemy's enemy is my friend. Okay, so it wasn't that he was supportive of Nazism or fascism, or of course, he was definitely not supportive of an empire because he wanted to free India of the British Empire, but he felt that my enemy's enemy is my friend. So, let me use these people, let me collaborate with Hitler, Mussolini in order to free India from Britain. Yes, absolutely. He just wanted help. Correct, correct. So because Britain was allied, that's why he was fighting with the Axis forces. So he refused help from Subhash Chandra Bose. He refused help from two fellow allies, Australia and Canada. So he just didn't want it. It's a clear lack of will, right? So he didn't listen to anybody, not even his own viceroys. So hundreds of thousands perished in the villages of Bengal. In London, Churchill's beloved advisor, the physicist Frederick Alexander Lindemann, was unmoved. Okay, so his advisor in London was unmoved. Of course, he was in London, he was not even in India. Yeah, it's easy to distance yourself. A firm believer in Malthusian population theory. Yes, what was this population theory of Malthus? Who will tell me? Malthus's population theory. A firm believer in Malthusian population theory. So Malthus said, he was a scientist and he said that population grows exponentially. Population कैसे बढ़ती है? Exponentially. But जो food supply है वो कैसे बढ़ती है? Arithmetically. So while this is an exponential progression, this is an arithmetic progression. तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा रेट पे बढ़ रही है और ये उतना पेस नहीं कर पा रही है फूड सप्लाई. तो अल्टीमेटली क्या होगा? फैमाइन्स हो जाएंगे. ओके, अल्टीमेटली famines, diseases, wars, they will become a way to control population, to bring it back to sustainable levels. That's what Malthus said. So he was a firm believer in Malthusian population theory कि अगर देखो population बढ़ेगी इतने रेट पर तो ये तो होना ही है. ठीक है. He blamed Indian philoprogenitiveness. What does this mean? Philoprogenitiveness. Break it and you'll get the meaning. Philoprogenitiveness. Phil means love. Progeny means your offspring, your children, right? So he said that India had a love for breeding, love for giving birth to children. Okay, so he blamed Indian philoprogenitiveness for the famine. कि इतने बच्चे होंगे तो ये तो होगा ही. Sending more food would worsen the situation, he said. Sending more food, now mark this, sending more food would worsen the situation by encouraging Indians to breed more. Oh my God. The Prime Minister was of the same opinion and expressed himself so colorfully. We know how colorfully he expressed when he said that Indians are a beastly people with a beastly religion and who bred like rabbits, so they are responsible for the famine. So this is what he said to Leo Emery, Secretary of State for India, to the extent that even the Secretary of State for India exploded at him, okay, comparing his attitudes to Hitler's. कि आप जो बात कर रहे हो वो बिल्कुल हिटलर जैसी बात है. Yes, somebody mentioned, no, everybody knows about the Holocaust but not about this. Again, because Holocaust is a Western phenomenon. Yes, so there is this discrimination, this politics in everything. Okay, Holocaust became a mainstream narrative, right? Okay, the Churchill industry has always denied that their idol could have done anything to relieve the Bengal famine. Churchill industry means supporters of Churchill who write books that praise Churchill, write articles that praise Churchill. So the Churchill industry, it has always denied that their idol, उनके भगवान, could have done anything to relieve the Bengal famine. Okay, so they say no, he couldn't have done anything to relieve the Bengal famine, to actually stop it or ease the situation. Shipping, they claim, was scarce. उतने ships थे ही नहीं, and it just wasn't possible to send food to Bengal. We didn't have as many ships as we wanted, and so how would we send food to Bengal? Mukherjee nails those terminological inexactitudes with precision. What does this mean? Terminological inexactitudes. Yes, terminological related to language. Inexactitude, something that is not precise, something that is not exact. It means lies. Okay, it's a euphemism for lies. Euphemism means using a politer word when people may find using the correct word, the exact word, offensive. So if you just say lies, people find it offensive, right? That is why Mukherjee nails those terminological inexactitudes with precision. Why has the author used this? Author to lies लिख सकता था ना यहाँ पर, right? Chandak Sen Gupta could have written lies, and he has put it in quotes. So he is quoting somebody. Actually, Churchill was known for using this particular term. So whenever he talked in the parliament you can't say, oh, this politician is lying. It's considered unparliamentary language, right? It's not considered very decorous. So that's why Churchill used this term. This is a terminological inexactitude. So Madhushree Mukherjee is also nailing this lie with precision. Okay, she is using precision to actually nail it. There was a shipping glut. Glut means a glut of something. Excessive supply. There was a shipping glut in summer and autumn 1943 thanks to the US transferring cargo ships to British control, because the US had also stepped into the war. It was transferring cargo ships to British control. Churchill, Lindemann and their close associates simply did not consider Indian lives worth saving. Churchill, his advisor and their close associates simply did not consider Indian lives worth saving. Okay, so this is the article excerpt. Okay, and I remember explaining fascism. I'll do that, but let's now see the questions first. Okay, and towards the end we'll talk about fascism, Nazism. Okay, so I'm sure. No, surfeit is to surrender. Okay, so yes, question number 1, is this clear to you? Everybody? Sorry, forfeit is to surrender. I am sorry, forfeit is to surrender. Surfeit, yes, it means excessive amount of something. All right. Based on the passage, one could best characterize Churchill as. Now, I understand you're marking C. Okay, I think B and C were the close options here. I'm happy that nobody said. Okay, A, I'm happy. Now, because I can't say he was known to be inspired by Hitler's attitudes. Only one person said this, that what you are doing is similar to Hitler. Your attitude is similar to Hitler. Only Leo Amery said that. So I can't write something so extreme based on that. C says an inconsiderate leader who, because of his fear of the Japanese invasion, made Indians suffer greatly. Really? Because the Japanese never came, isn't it? And even though even later on, when so many people offered help, his main reason was not a fear of Japanese invasion. His reason was he wanted to keep food for Italy. Yeah? So the reason is not a fear of Japanese invasion. So that is the problem with C. D says a stubborn bigot. Who is a bigoted person? Bigotry. Someone who divides people into us versus them and hates the them. Yes? So hatred on the basis of religion, caste, class, ethnicity or any other criteria, that is bigotry. Okay, a stubborn bigot who cared more about his political interests, till here it's fine, okay, than about the lives of. Now this is where it becomes wrong, so that's why you have to read the entire option. This is a very clever tactic by the examiner, that they'll keep the first part of the option correct, and then when you become a little complacent, here is where the error comes. Okay, so Indians were not his people, okay, they were his colonies people. A. An obstinate leader who was severely prejudiced. We see the prejudice right from the word go, right from the very first sentence. And he was antipathetic towards Indians. Antipathy. See, apathy is one thing. Apathy, you just don't feel anything towards this person. You are indifferent towards this person. But antipathy is hatred. Okay. So he was hateful. I hate Indians. That's what he said. Okay. So B, Bangalore, right? Although I hate Indians bit is not there in our passage, okay? So I have not inferred on the basis of that. Remember that. I can't use external knowledge, but antipathy यहाँ से भी निकल कर आ रही है. When you're calling somebody a beastly people, right? So that is showing the antipathy. Okay. And one more thing, when people questioned him, that he was getting letters from the viceroys and everybody, and they were saying that so many people are dying in Bengal, why don't you do something? He said, has Gandhi died yet? So that was his response to this question, that so many people are to this concern that so many people are dying. So that was his hatred of Gandhi. Okay, based on the passage, which of the following is the Churchill industry most likely to state to support their assertion? So what do they want to support? Churchill could not have done anything to relieve the famine. Okay, they want to support this idea. So, A says, even if there weren't a shortage of ships during 1943, sending food shipments to India would have certainly resulted in Churchill's losing popular support in Britain. Is that a reason enough to say that he could not have done anything to relieve the famine? Isn't it the kind of statement that he actually prioritized his political interests? So this will not really support their assertion that he could not have done anything. Okay, this is kind of saying, oh, he prioritized his political interest. So that's not the support that we are looking for. C, even if, okay, fine, and Churchill had sent food grains. Now, I understand you're marking C. B and C were the two close options here. But tell me, isn't this another problem, another difficulty that has arisen? This is a separate difficulty that would arise when, let's say, he sent food. This is not going to show that he could not have done anything to relieve the famine. ये तो दूसरी problem है ना, Japanese attack. Famine दूसरी problem है. I know related है. But this is another situation that would be then handled. But it's not showing that he could not have done anything to relieve the famine. Do you see this? Why not see? Yes? No? So, if we say B, if they really attacked, okay, the Japanese would have definitely attacked India if they say that, and Bengal would have been the first one to be enslaved by them. Then you say option C would be right. So the question is not about that Churchill could not have done anything. Like, let's say if the question was that if Churchill had acted, then it would have led to India's disadvantage only, not advantage. If that is what we were trying to support, no, then C would be the perfect answer. That Churchill's supporting would have been counterproductive. अगर ये आर्ग्यूमेंट सपोर्ट करनी होती कि उसका सपोर्ट काउंटर प्रोडक्टिव होता तो सी आंसर होता. बट अभी हमारा आर्ग्यूमेंट किस चीज़ से कंसर्न्ड है? रिलीविंग द फैमाइन. ये तो अनदर डिफिकल्टी है दैट वुड हैव अरिजन एंड दैट देन वुड हैव बीन टैकल्ड. फैमाइन तो रिलीव हो सकता था ना फिर भी. यू गेट दिस? So B says, B actually shows that okay, he did something but that did not materialize. तो उसके बाद अब क्योंकि accessibility ही नहीं थी तो actually में वो फिर कुछ नहीं कर सकता था to relieve the famine. जब accessibility ही नहीं थी तो फिर तो वो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता था ना. So B is actually a stronger option than C. You get this? Why B over C? Are you there? Are you there with me? Everybody is awake, alert, nobody has slept. ठीक है, अगर नहीं भी समझ में आ रहा है, you can always ask me again. We can always debate on this. ठीक है, but please respond. Okay. Question 4. So, which of the following scenarios most closely parallels? Analogy question है ये. Parallels. आपको similarity बताना है. ओके. सिमिलर कौन सी है, कौन सी मिरर करती है जो इकोनॉमिक लॉजिक है इस स्टेटमेंट का. द मियर नॉलेज ऑफ इम्पेंडिंग इम्पोर्ट्स वुड हैव लोअर्ड द प्राइस ऑफ राइस बाय मेकिंग होर्डिंग अनप्रॉफिटेबल. ओके, नाउ many of you I think marked B here, right? And I understand that. But मुझे बताओ B में क्या होर्डिंग हो रही है ये? Is this hoarding? Hoarding is in response to, usually it is done at crisis times in response to an anticipation in price rise. कि अब इस चीज़ का प्राइस बढ़ने वाला है तो चलो हम ये होल्ड कर लेते हैं चीज़. This is simply a case of acquisition, right? To create a monopoly, isn't it? Acquisition to create, with an effort to create a monopoly. तो उन्होंने almost सारी डायमंड माइंस खरीद ली. So this is not a case of we just need to figure out the strongest statement. Yes, Fluke, we need to do that, but we also need to be very clear why the incorrect options are incorrect. Okay, because in the exam when you're faced with, whenever students tell me I'm stuck between two close options, why does that happen that you get stuck there? Because you are not going through the negative process of elimination. Positive process नहीं होता आंसर्स मार्क करना, इट्स अ नेगेटिव प्रोसेस. यू एलिमिनेट. ओके, और एलिमिनेशन कैसे करते हैं? विद जस्टिफिकेशन, उस पर लेबल लगा के कि ये क्यों आंसर गलत है, क्योंकि अरे इसमें तो एक और डिफिकल्टी की बात हो रही है, अनदर डिफिकल्टी, अनदर प्रॉब्लम. ओके, so this is not really a case of hoarding. It's acquisition in order to create a monopoly, and then when another firm discovers diamond reserves, it's breaking that monopoly. Yes, it is breaking that monopoly. On the other hand, observe how it is mirroring the situation. कोविड क्राइसिस टाइम है, जैसे बंगाल फेमाइन क्राइसिस टाइम था. ट्रेडर्स जो हैं वो एंटिसिपेट कर रहे हैं कि गोल्ड का प्राइस बढ़ेगा, राइट? सो नाउ देयर इज एन एंटिसिपेशन कि प्राइस बढ़ेगा गोल्ड का, इसीलिए वो होल्ड कर रहे हैं. सो क्राफ्टी, रिमेंबर क्राफ्टी बिजनेसमैन, दे होल्डेड. व्हाई वुड क्राफ्टी बिजनेसमैन होल्ड? बिकॉज दे आर एंटिसिपेटिंग अ प्राइस राइज. लिखा हुआ है हमारे पैसेज में, क्राफ्टी बिजनेसमैन. पैनिकिंग पब्लिक एंड मेनी क्राफ्टी बिजनेसमैन इमीडिएटली बिगैन टू होल्ड राइस, क्योंकि उन्होंने एंटिसिपेट किया प्राइस बढ़ने वाला है, प्रॉफिट कमाएंगे. ठीक है, सो दे बाइड इन ह्यूज क्वांटिटीज. नाउ दिस इज होल्डिंग. Later what happens? The government intervenes. The government says, you know what? We have large gold reserves. We have large gold reserves. So supply has been increased. The government has announced कि देखो हमारे पास तो large gold reserves हैं, and gold prices drop. So the mere knowledge of impending imports, when the government has announced, the mere knowledge, okay, would have lowered the prices of the commodity. Does that make sense? How C is mirroring the logic and not B? Okay, somebody mentioned D as well, I remember. Reliance shares rise on NSE but not on BSE. Investors buy on BSE. NSE price falls due to this activity. Is this a case of hoarding at all? यहाँ पे hoarding हो रही है कुछ, ये तो price difference है. This is called price arbitrage, something of this sort. आर्बिट्राज कहते हैं इसको. यस, ये होर्डिंग नहीं है. ओके, दिस इज ऑल्सो नॉट अ केस ऑफ होर्डिंग, द वेरियंट बीइंग सिमिलर. ओके, सो द आंसर इज सी हियर. सो योर क्वेश्चंस टुडे हैड, they were tricky, they were not difficult, I would say, right? And the passage was a history read, it was not philosophical as such. For further reading, I suggest that you read Ramachandra Guha's views and Shashi Tharoor's views. right, in these articles. One is from Time, The Ugly Britain by Shashi Tharoor, and one is from The Atlantic, Churchill, the greatest Briton, hated Gandhi, the greatest Indian, right? Now, elimination of question 3, all right. Yes, yes, definitely. So, which answer, Shreya, do you think is more plausible? Which one did you mark? So, we have to support this idea that Churchill वाकई में कुछ नहीं कर सकता था to relieve the famine. Famine की को ease करने के लिए he could not have done anything, right? Now, if I say that, if I say D, that is not really weakening. That, far, ये तो कह रहे हैं कि situation worse हो सकती थी, but that is not denying that अभी भी situation bad थी, isn't it? So, okay. Yes. Let's go through option A. Even if there weren't a shortage of ships during 1943, sending food shipments in India would have certainly resulted in Churchill's losing popular support in Britain. So, see, losing popular support would not mean that he would be removed from the post of PM, right? Losing popular support cannot be taken to such an extreme. In case, let's say, you interpreted it that way and you marked A, कि भाई वो PM ही नहीं रहता, okay? Losing popular support का meaning ये नहीं होता. It would just mean that he would not remain, people would have started criticizing him. Let's say British people would have criticized him. Let's say his popularity ratings would have come down. That's what I'm saying. So this is not actually supporting this idea that he could not have done anything. Could not में क्या होता है कि inability दिखानी है मुझे उसकी, कि उसके पास वो एबिलिटी ही नहीं थी कि वो कुछ कर पाए. यहाँ पर तो ये पॉलिटिकल विल की बात हो गई ना. आप अपने पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट पहले देख रहे हो, आप वो सेव कर रहे हो कि भाई मैं ह्यूमैनिटेरियन हेल्प वेल्प छोड़ो, मैं पहले पॉलिटिशियन हूँ, मैं वो सेव करता हूँ. तो यहाँ पे कुड नॉट हैव डन एनीथिंग की बात नहीं है. आई वॉन्ट टू शो दिस इनएबिलिटी. सी सेज कि अगर वो करता तो देखो उसका ना एक और बुरा कॉन्सिक्वेंस हो जाता. इट वुड हैव लेड टू अनदर बैड थिंग हैपनिंग. But my point is, would it have relieved the famine or not? I just have to stick to this. I just have to see this. Famine तो relieve हो जाता ना, ये दूसरी प्रॉब्लम है, इसको बाद में देखते, right? B is the answer because it shows that, despite his efforts, because of the very poor inaccessibility, वो पहुंच ही नहीं पाता ग्रेन. वो पहुंच ही नहीं, इनफैक्ट पहुंच नहीं पाया ग्रेन. चर्चिल ने तो ऑर्डर किया था, ग्रेन पहुंच नहीं पाया. सो एक्चुअली में क्योंकि एक्सेसिबिलिटी नहीं थी, वो नहीं कर सकता था कुछ टू रिलीव द फैमाइन. ओके, आई होप नाउ इट इज क्लियरर. हिज allies were also offering help. Yes. So yes, fascism, definitely, Ronak. So fascism comes from the Italian word fasces. Fasces in Italy, it refers to a lot of ropes with an axe in between them. Okay, a lot of ropes with an axe going through them, and it is considered a symbol of power in Italy. So Benito Mussolini, he rose to power. And he established, he called his party the fascist party, right? He led this party called the fascist party. The terminology came from here. So Mussolini, of course, was very expansionist. He wanted to expand Italy's influence. He wanted to expand Italy, so to say, to the rest of Europe. He wanted extreme regimentation from his population. Means, जो मैंने कह दिया वो last word है. The population has to support what I am saying. Similarly, I don't remember the exact name, but in Italy also there were some minorities whom he opposed and against whom he perpetrated a lot of crimes. So this was fascism, okay? And now the word is used very widely and it is used slightly more loosely today. When we say that this move is a fascist move, it does not have to check all the criteria of what happened during fascism. I am just trying to say that it's a very oppressive move. This is a move that is meant to suppress freedom, right? So now it is used relatively more loosely. Okay, and For more info, I direct you to this documentary called The Dictator, which has an episode on Mussolini. Okay, I hope this helped. I'll see you on Friday. No, today is Friday. I'll see you next week then. Yes, at 5 p.m. Wednesday 5 p.m. with another session. Okay, welcome. Bye bye. See you.